Okay, here we are in game number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be Antibot once more taking on Cannonana, a very good Zerg bot. So 2 bots that haven't been updated in quite a long time. I mean, a relatively long time, I guess I'll say. Quite a long time is like Micro Machine, which hasn't been updated in 5 years. It's been a while for both of them, but not too long. Hopefully we do get some updates. I'd say more. It's interesting to talk about because you can always work more and more on your bots. As far as these 2 go, Cannonana seems like a very complete project. Antibot, not as much, because it's got all those wild factors that could maybe be polished a little bit more. However, that's why it's got its charm, which we love so much. We are on Leylines, the AI edition for this Terran versus Zerg, bot versus bot. And yeah, we'll see whether Antibot can bring something out against Cannonana. We do have a natural base on the way for the Zerg, but quite late. Cannonana is known for its safe pool opening, kind of monopolized, or not monopolized, but really just unique to Cannonana. There's not a lot of other Zerg bots that go for this and then play such a macro game. Eris, for example, tends to go for very quick third bases. It's almost the polar opposite of Cannonana. So we do have the Queen on the way for the Zerg. We've got those scouting lings moving on out, as that is something you do have to program into your bot. Every action of every unit has had some, well, has generally had some thought behind it as a bot author. And when it comes to scouting, that's a big part of the picture. Now we do have those 2 lings trying to run on in. We'll see if Antibot's Marines are as sleepy as they were in the previous game. I mean, that previous game could have been totally different if it had got that natural base up, if it had held that ramp a little bit better. So who knows, maybe the game between those 2 would have been, yeah, just different. So if Antibot ever gets updated, maybe that will be addressed and we'll have to run it back. That is one of the very cool things about bot matches, is that you can break it down in so much depth as to why something happened, or like why a bot lost a match, because you can literally, shout out to AIarena.net, request the bots play each other again. And unless there's been a big update unless there's been a big update, basically, the bots generally perform the same. And so you can literally run it back, unlike pro matches where it's sort of like, oh man, if this had been different, it's like, well, with bots you can literally find out. And that is something that's very cool, and all the hypothetical what ifs, because the bot author could quite literally patch in a what if and then run it again. Sort of some insight there onto why I love these bots so much, and I'm sure why a lot of you guys do as well. We've got a Roach Warren on the way for Cannonana, tagging a Roach. Meanwhile, Antibot, what build did it say it was going for? Marine, Cyclone, Viking. Cyclones are good units, guys. This could be a bit of a challenge here for Cannonana. We are getting an eBay on the way for Antibot, Medivac on the way as well, and then there is a lair for the Zerg bot. Roach speed is definitely something to look out for Cannonana. Once those roaches have speed, they can micro very darn well. Notably, creep cleanup can be important in this match too, as the early queen means there's early creep spread for Cannonana, and that's already on its way out. And we'll just have to see if Antibot is going to try and deal with that in this game. We've got a very safe turret inside the main base from Antibot. I'm not sure what this is for, whether it's just general safety. I assume it's just something done in this build. I don't believe Antibot did that in the previous match, which might have been useful because there was Phoenix, and I think there's more likely going to be air units harassing you in like the PVT matchup or the TVT matchup than the ZVT matchup. So unless this is just for dealing with burrowed roaches, something like that, I do not know. Or just maybe it's to prevent lings at expos, like this one, the turret went to go build there, but it's already building, so I don't know. Could just be a build thing. I think the turrets are something Antibot could probably skip in this matchup in particular, and that is something that you've got to consider as a bot author when you're programming your builds. Do you have variations for the builds based on the matchup? I think that's something you definitely do want. Now, Antibot is getting Magfield Accelerator, Cyclones are building, and the micro power of Cyclones can be incredibly strong. We do have the third base already building for Antibot, which is quite nice, having that on location, because it's going to be able to saturate that quite quickly. Already at 47 SCVs. Kananana, meanwhile, is only on 41 drones, despite having 4 bases, so it will want to get some of those out soon. We also have 2 extractors, notably, from Kananana that are not being mined from. The Zerg bot has actually got way more extractors than it needs. In fact, it's literally just mining out of 1 right now, and it's got 6. So that is something that could be lost efficiency from Kananana. Antibot, something that's really nice that the Terran bot does is secure these expansions ahead of time. -0 does this as well. Try and have a unit on a base so it cannot be blocked by, say, a burrowed Zergling, which is something that used to be really impactful in the meta before most of the best bots were updated to sort of solve that problem. Now, Marines still running around, keeping this base clear, killing changelings, protecting this cable that runs across from the power station to the other power station. And yeah, let's see here. Antibot just pumping out Marines, pumping out Vikings. The Vikings are interesting here because, again, they could potentially be dead weight in this matchup, as Kananana may just be going for mass roaches, so the Cyclones will be important in this. We have got a scan even going down. I'm not sure where that one was. Vikings, meanwhile, are doing their thing. The scan was dropped at this base. There might have been a Zergling that was able to burrow there. And an SCV is moving on out. Antibot is building a 5th base its 4th base, pardon me, at the 5th base location. Classic Antibot mistake. I do wonder what goes on in its programming, that it consistently takes the wrong base by 1. Now, a Viking lands, practicing for the big show. And we've got another match that's these 2 bots being relatively passive. Both of them building up, both of them at 150 supply. No early game damage done to speak of. Antibot so far hasn't lost a unit. Kananana, meanwhile, has sacrificed 21 scouting lings. Something that could be very scary for the Terran is the fact that Kananana is getting out infestors, potentially. Fungals on Cyclones, fungals on Vikings, and Marines can be very strong. We do have this Queen being a big fat fatty and blocking this Evo chamber. However, it does eventually get up, which is good to see. That was a little frustrating. And yeah, both of these bots, they're just matching pace, getting up production, getting up upgrades, 170 to 170 supply. Once it hits 200, we're going to see some stuff. And yeah, Vikings shooing away Overseers, so that's something Kananana needs to be a little careful with, or it could lose all these for free. The 4th base is secured up. Well, it's built for Antibot. It's not really secure, as it could very well be harassed by Antibot's opponent, and that is something Kananana does. That is hit multiple locations. We're also getting Liberators from the Terran. That can be very powerful too, and really make use of having that air control. So I'm actually a big fan of getting these Liberators. We'll see if we get advanced ballistics at any point or not. For now, though, Antibot just on 5 bases, but here we see Kananana going for some Zergling harassment, hitting the 5th base, hitting the 3rd base at the same time. This is going to test Antibot's splitting chops. Marines are responding on one front. Meanwhile, the Cyclones respond on another. That's some very practical army splitting. I wonder if that was by chance or a happy little accident For now, though, the Roaches and Hydras are coming on in, and really the Cyclones are the only thing that can answer them. We'll see if there's a scan to help pick off some of these Roaches. Hydras even trying to build to survive from the Cyclones. This base is not being resumed built just yet. The 4th base is mining once again. Cannonana did trade out a fair bit of supply going for that attack, and is all of a sudden down in supply by a significant margin, so Antibot can potentially get aggressive in this match. We're even getting Thors from the Terran. This is the beautiful thing of watching Antibot play. It just adds in so much different stuff to its compositions. We've got Vikings and Marines pushing on in against Cannonana. Liberator fighting with Queens and Hydras, but it does get handled. Vikings getting neural parasited, so Viking on Viking violence. But then Cyclones pushing down the middle are the main threat. Cyclones are perhaps one of the best units to be controlled by bots because they are a unit that really benefits from being microed, but a fungal growth can definitely help shut that down. And so some of these Cyclones do get caught, killed, and surrounded. Queens and Hydras are pushing out for Cannonana to try and answer this. The line of sight blocker may be having a little bit of an impact here, although Cannonana has perfect vision from the creep spread. Roaches and Queens trying to sandbag this attack. Antibot supply is a little bit misleading because the Cyclones are the main damage dealer, and there is presently only 8 of those left. Liberators are nice, however, Corruptors are working on them. And then, let's see, there's the triple Thor hit squad, an Antibot specialty moving around the map, but this could just be a big resource sink for the Terran bot, as 3 Thors can be very vulnerable to just simply to Lings, Hydras, anything. And Zerg can be very quick to respond. Cannonana knows that this is coming, so we'll see if it's going to reposition accordingly. Antibot is throwing Cyclones to the front lines while this is going on. SCV's coming, maybe to help repair, although they're scattering in the face of all this Zerg, so Antibot needs more Cyclones. And it's actually a little bit bottlenecked by production. This is something that I have noticed in the past, that it does get bottlenecked. We have these Thors engaging at this hatchery. They almost get it. However, Roaches and Hydras coming forward to shut this down. Neural on one of them, and all of a sudden it's an enemy Thor. Cannonana cleans that up, saves the hatchery. That's a big win for the Blue Zerg. And we do have to worry a little bit for Antibot because the overall efficiency in the late game really tends to go Cannonana's way. That's its bread and butter. The production of the Terran might not be enough as well. As I was saying, that it's only got 4 factories out. And if you're going to trade at a high rate for a prolonged amount of time, you will eventually just fall off in the supply. So can Antibot trade out well enough? Probably not, as it does have 3 Cyclones grabbed like they're just toys for the Infestors to play with. Definitely makes me think of Carbot. And let's see here, as we do have Antibot attempting to get up a 6 base. There is some Ling harassment going on at the Terran's other bases, so Cyclones or Marines or something have to respond to that. We're getting more Cyclones built. A 5th factory is being added on for Antibot, a 6th factory, pardon me. That's actually quite important. I'm glad to see we are seeing that. Maybe I'm thinking of like Phobos or something with the limited production in certain matches. But anyway, Cannonana just showing us how good its unit control is independently. If we pull up the Zerg's vision, it is just hitting all across the board, causing Antibot lots of grief. Antibot unable to respond to these attacks quick enough. It seems this Liberator's got some good damage done. 8 kills. Cyclones, meanwhile, can skirmish, waiting for their lock-on to come off cooldown. And it is quite strong, those Cyclones with Magfield Accelerator. But Cannonana is still getting some nice efficiency here, trading better than Antibot as the game goes on. Cannonana has also secured up more bases presently, I believe. What do we got? We got 6 to 7, so a little bit of a lead for the Zerg. Antibot, if it loses a base, it probably will never re-secure it due to this creep spreading all over the map. Antibot hasn't been able to keep up to the creep of its opponent, and that is generally a bad thing for the Terran. The Terran also bottlenecked on gas a little bit, just dropping mules and falling down in supply. Things are looking a little rough here for Antibot, as Cannonana is just getting some really nice harassment damage done. That is one of the big strengths of the Zerg. Cyclones responding, but SCVs have already died. This is why, say, setting up a Liberator or something at a base can definitely help out, a bunker even. or why we see some bots go for planetary fortresses. If the defensive chops are not up to task, you sometimes have to subsidize that with defensive structures. The Cyclone Ball is decent and are definitely great on the defense, but once Antibot moves out onto the map, it really gets slapped down by Cannonana. It seems we do have these Cyclones finding a decent number of Lings, or I guess it's the Lings find the Cyclones, but it doesn't go that hot for the Lings. We are getting Hellions even added into the mix, which is cool to see, but this base down here has just been an SCV graveyard. 78 killed so far this game. There was the one Thor hit squad, but Cannonana really hasn't taken any economic damage. And look at this, Antibot moving out on the map once again. It's probably going to be getting punished pretty hard. Liberator's there to provide a retreat zone. Definitely not something that's easy to program as good Liberator behavior, but Antibot seems to be quite decent. However, look at this. This base being harassed by just a couple of Lings. This base just constantly being harassed. A scan went down, but there's too much creep to clean on up. Cyclones skirmishing nonstop. Antibot is falling in supply as it can't replace units quick enough because it's just losing so many SCVs. The mining has been disrupted at pretty much everything but the core bases. Lings coming on in, trying to get pickoffs. Cannonana is playing a phenomenal game and just really putting the works, really putting the screws to Antibot. And yeah, I think we're just witnessing a slow death here, unfortunately. Unless Antibot really hunkers down or something, it's not going to be in a good position. The Cyclones are still trading out. The trades haven't been horrendous, just the income is too low due to this harassment. And this is the problem with trying to mass expand with orbitals. Like, a lot of bot games, 9 times out of 10, it seems that these bases are not harassed, but when they're harassed, it is a big, big liability. This base lifting off, it will never be retaken due to the creep being spread here. There is another Thor, but that goes down, and Cannonana will be bringing down Antibot, which is actually just going to GG out once more, I think. So Cannonana takes it in a phenomenal ZVT. Really exciting game between these two. I always say, like, what if? Well, what if Antibot did actually have planetaries at these exterior bases? I think that would have definitely changed the game. And it might have even been a victory, because like if this little harassment doesn't get value for Cannonana, Antibot trades out a lot better. It keeps its economy going. Maybe it overwhelms its opponent. I do feel a little bit bad that I'm like, the channel loves Antibot, and I proceed to cast 2 games in which it loses. However, there's no shame in losing to -0, losing to Cannonana. They are 2 of the best bots out there. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you've watched up until this point and you like these double feature videos, click that like button, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to support these casts, consider becoming a YouTube member. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for tuning on in. Alrighty, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 vs 1 bot AI cast. We have got ourselves what should be a good one here today, and there's a reason I'm casting it, as you guys seem to love Antibot. Artificial no intelligence. Very fun to watch creation. And we're going to see how it's going to do today against the best bot, -0. Phenomenal Protoss bot that, yeah, we're very lucky to have back in the scene. I know it was off the ladder for a few years. And it's definitely interesting because bots come and go. And right now we are missing a few of, like, I guess the sort of old favorites. Like, we're missing Micro Machine, we're missing Ketrock, and I'm definitely forgetting a couple others. However, then we have bots like -0 and Antibot that come back and battle on the ladder. We do have Antibot going for this quick wall, which is very nice as it does prevent scouting. So I can only assume that's the main reason why the bot author goes for that. Defending from cheeses, it can definitely be useful as well. But yes, enough of my rambling, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get too far into this video, make sure to go ahead, click that like button if you haven't already. Give it a lick, give it a click. Whatever you want to do to it, if we can hit, oh, I don't know, 44 minerals, because that was negative, or pardon me, 44 likes, because that was negative zero's gas income. And then leave a comment down below saying more bots, or just write gibberish, whatever you like down there, as I do read all your comments, and that helps us with the YouTube bot. Yes, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as this is the only channel where we have daily bot videos. I know every now and then a bigger YouTuber may cover some of the bots, but then I mean, it's just like one video that misses some of the information, whereas we go in depth here. And yes, if you guys do want to help us hit our YouTube member goal, consider becoming a YouTube member, as that definitely helps support the channel. I can safely say I wouldn't be able to commentate every day if that wasn't for your guys' support. So thank you. Now we do have negative zero getting aggressive here with one stalker waltzing across the map and then backing it up with a couple of just regular zealots. I can only assume this is a reaction based off the fact that it did not scout, that it could scout the main base of Antibot early on, so it couldn't tell if it was being cheesed. So the answer to that is make a whole whackload of units. Now, unfortunately for Antibot, it seems to be a little hard stuck here in that its Marines are just chilling, and it is unable to resume this command center. We'll see if these Marines spring into action, but the SCV does not want to resume that. The Marines need to get down there and be a hero, so the SCV is running away, and yeah, this could be really bad if the command center of Antibot does get taken down. SCVs do seem to have behavior to preserve themselves, which might not always work. A new SCV is always being sent into the front lines there. Which is something I'm definitely a big fan of. Unfortunately, in this case, it's definitely not working as well as it could. Mainly the Marines just being asleep here, having no commands issued to them, is definitely suboptimal. I mean, it's terrible. It's not suboptimal. It's lower than suboptimal, as this command center will indeed be canceled. And all of a sudden, Antibot is just... yeah, having a very bad time. So these Marines sleeping at the wheel. A new command center will be started in the main base. This is a very nice defensive position for the Terran, as the Zealots are just being cut up. SCVs repairing the wall, which is good to see. Stalkers are shooting away on the SCVs, but once the Zealots die, so will the vision for the Stalkers, and they'll be forced back. Meanwhile, negative zero still hasn't expanded behind this. It is simply going for one Stargate behind this. And yeah, we'll see if it's able to successfully push up here. The ramp is a very strong position right now. It's just such a shame that the rest of these Marines are not awake here. And I really don't know why this is for Antibot, as I think it's got a very solid defensive position here, but it seems negative zero may be able to break up this ramp. We do have Banshees on the way for Antibot. Some more of the Marines do wake up, able to get some shots off. Meanwhile, more and more SCVs are being pulled to their death to repair this wall. Negative zero is doing a great job targeting those SCVs. Fortunately, Antibot does have mules. A Banshee rolls on up. Negative zero tags cloaked. However, there is no cloak, but the Banshee seems to have some good micro. It's not being as lazy as these terrible Marines. And then, yeah, we'll see if it's able to help Antibot stay alive here. This is a very close defense, because it is still just a one-base Protoss against a Terran that now has two command centers. No cloak for Antibot yet, though. So we'll see if the Banshee pardon me, the Phoenix that was produced is able to get on top of these Banshees. Negative zero is sent home, though. The presence of the Banshees seems to have scared it a little bit. It's getting up nice defensive batteries. But we're in a very interesting economic position, because we've got a Terran bot that's on a rubbish economy. However, it's got the extra expo. It's got mules, of course, that it can drop too. I'm guessing Antibot probably drops those at 100 energy. Do we have a mule at 100 energy? Show me a mule. There's the mule. The reason for that is quite a practical one, to always have energy for a scan as a bot author. Now this extra base can lift off. Another mule does get dropped, so the income isn't terrible. Meanwhile, negative zero is getting up this Nexus, but it's a very delayed Nexus. Antibot is moving down to its natural. The Marines are still asleep, though. I really don't know what's going on here. It's not like Antibot has bugs like this too darn often, but this is definitely a bad showing from the Terran bot. And now we've got -0 just chilling for now, getting up its natural Nexus, probably going to keep on scouting. That's one of the beautiful things of -0. Its decision making is quite sound, whether it should attack or defend. There is Hyperflight rotors researching for the Banshees, but no cloak on them yet. We're also getting Widow Mines for Antibot. The production for the Terran is still quite low, though. It is on kind of even income with the Protoss, but look at this. Phoenix finds one of the Banshees. The second one could very well be in trouble here because the Marines are not synergizing with the Phoenix. And yeah, SCVs are being pulled to repair the Banshee, which tries to... Pardon me. The Banshees were not synergizing with the Phoenix. I think my brain must still be in statics mode. That's what I'm doing right now. Taking a break from working on statics to look at some beautiful, beautiful bots. We have Antibot saying several air units detected, which is definitely an interesting choice because, and very practical because you don't want your bot to just start spamming Vikings when it sees one air unit. There's a notable air fleet from -0 presently. -0 is spending its money as quickly as it gets it, firing up a third base and then moving on out. We'll see if it's going to get aggressive here or not. I really am concerned for Antibot, though. Just the fact that these Marines are still sitting here, these Widow Mines are still sitting here. It is doing an air build, which maybe is why the ground units are sort of underperforming in this game. For now, though, -0, it readjusts its position, which seems to be quite strong. I do wonder if that's something that's hard-coded. Is it? Yeah, definitely just repositioned upon that third base being started, which again is something that I like. Bot authors have to make decisions when it comes to trying to defend bases, and one of those decisions is whether to defend a base while it's building, and to adjust your army position based off that, or whether to wait for it's done, which is seemingly what a lot of bots do, but then it kind of leads to a lot of base kills and cancellations. -0 just moving its army forward here is a little sweet. I don't exactly know what's going on, but it seems like the right thing to do. The Banshee can cloak to save itself. Now that that is done, there's lots of Hellions. The Marines are actually moving on out for a change, so they do seem to be waking up a little bit. I have no idea what's going on with the army manager of Antibot, that Marines were asleep, and now all of a sudden they have woken up. There's a lot of Hellions for the Terran bot, but those aren't going to do too well against mass stalkers. So the compositions definitely are interesting in this game. I do think it's just going to be a slow burn towards a victory for -0, though, as there's not a lot going for Antibot. The composition is just not that strong. And then let's see here. Phoenix still flying around, harassing these units a little bit. Marines are trying to stay on top of this, but -0 is perhaps the bot with the best army splitting, and that means that it's actually harassing the Phoenix harassing the Banshees from multiple directions, pardon me. And Antibot's Marines, like a human's Marines sometimes do, they are struggling to keep up. Now, we are getting Vikings finally produced for Antibot. It said it was going to build Vikings like 5 minutes ago. It's finally getting around to that now that its economy is growing up. Triple Viking production can definitely be big here. And -0, we'll just see what its composition is going to look like. The Stalkers, of course, are very good. But, yeah, there is definitely a world in which maybe -0's counter tables aren't perfect for such a strange composition, and say if Antibot gets up a ton of Vikings, a ton of Banshees, maybe -0 doesn't have the correct counter to that. -0 is generally on the money, though, so we'll keep an eye on that. We've already got a fourth base about to finish up for the Protoss. There is Marines trying to chase down a hallucinated Phoenix. That's definitely not ideal. The only way, as far as I know, you cannot tell if a unit in the API is cloaked or not. The only thing you can do with that is to track, I believe, when it takes damage. Then you can tag a unit as cloaked. But if it doesn't take damage, you can be baited around by these hallucinations. I'm not one to give balance opinions too much. I'm far from my prime of playing and watching as much StarCraft 2 as I used to. From a game design perspective, I'm not a big fan of the hallucinated Phoenix, because StarCraft is a game that gets a lot of its excitement from surprise, and combined with energy recharge, this is more so for like an early game type thing. The hallucinated Phoenix takes some of the mystery out. We've had a little bit of an engagement after a very peaceful mid-game. I mean, Antibot has got 10 Vikings, which is a significant count. -0 is moving out for an attack, though. We'll see if the Terran is going to survive this. The ground army is definitely lacking, though, from Antibot. I think to win this engagement, it's going to need to snipe the observers of -0 so the Banshees can do some work, but the Banshees are just suiciding forward, trying to attack the ground army, meaning that most of the anti-ground damage is gone. Looks like the Hellions are somehow chasing Stalkers away, which is very bizarre. Antibot wins in the skies, but it's absolutely going to lose on the ground here as the Stalkers and Colossi do finally turn and fight this. There's no blink on the Stalkers yet, so the Vikings have to run for their lives. But a very interesting build from Antibot, and this is not looking too hot from the blue Terran, as -0 is just such a darn beast. And these Vikings should probably be landing at this point, but not a lot of... Oh, that one actually does land, interestingly enough. We'll see if any more of them do or not, but the third base of Antibot's in trouble. It's a shame because it did get up a fourth, and a fifth base was building, so with another minute, maybe things would have started to look up for Antibot. But in the end, I think -0 will take this one. You never know what you're going to get when you click on one of these random AI ladder replays, so I'm going to go ahead and load us into another one, which I'm sure will be a completely different game, as this one is pretty cut and dry. Antibot, the gentleman, actually does GG. Stay tuned, I'll load into the next match.